start recording and I share my screen. Okay, so I thought today would have a very short introductory module, and then we have a discussion, and then we can see if we can move on to the next topic, or we can wait for next Tuesday. So today I thought let us start by introducing the module to you, and let us have a discussion. Just briefly have a discussion and see if we can at least have an idea of what we expect as far as this module is concerned. So first of all, who is the facilitator? I've given you a brief introduction of who I am, but this particular slide gives you my academic qualifications and yeah. So basically that you can go through it at your own time. So just also to have a brief overview, we want to start with an introduction to education technology. That is for today. If we have time, we shall look at teaching models and technology choice. So basically just to see how some things that can guide us on what technologies can we use in the classroom. We shall have a detailed discussion on communication. So communication is key. The key point of teaching is to communicate something. Either the learner or the teacher is communicating something, but information must be passed on from either from one person to a group or from a group to a person. So that is it's another key point, and it's something to have at the back of your mind as you use any technology that we have before us. For instance, we are using Zoom, we are using the internet, we are using PowerPoint. All of these are tools, but they must exist to emphasize communication on the whole, whether you're teaching or learning. Then we shall come to should I say the theoretical but practical elements. We shall have both the theory and the practical side of looking at each of the technologies, all the possible technologies, or the generic technologies that we have and that we have at our disposal as people in the academic sphere. We shall look at audio technologies, audiovisual, and multimedia technologies. As we go along, we realize that we've encountered all of them in their different formats, but we simply haven't classified them per se. Now, what are the objectives of this module? What are the objectives of this module? The first and most important thing is to understand that ICT as a whole is an extremely rich environment. Why? Because it is constantly changing. For myself, when I think back to my time as a student at Uganda Matters University, and I think at that time and what we have now, it is practically a difference of night and day, so to speak. I remember in our time, mobile phones didn't exist. What we had at the university was this telephone booths, these public telephones, where if you had somebody outside the university calling you, somebody would pass by, the phone rings, somebody picks up the phone and tells the person on the other side that, oh, give me 10 minutes, I look for the person, and you hang up. But now when you come to either the main campus or any university, every single person on campus, be it the student, the lecturer, the cleaner, everybody has a phone. So you find that already in our social setting, we are already technology rich. Now, what about the learning environment? Yeah, what about the learning environment? The technologies are definitely available, but we have not begun, or we are just beginning to identify them in the practical sense. We are just beginning to identify that we can use this tool, we can use that tool. I don't think for most universities or schools, I don't think many of them actually realize that the internet could be a huge resource for teaching and learning until COVID came. Now it is a must, and it isn't just for the teaching and learning industry, but you find it in every other industry. I have a younger sister who is in, should I say, their company is in sort of consultancy and training, human resource training. And she was telling us, I think one time she was telling somebody that before COVID, they had clients, let us say, who were scattered all over Africa. And at the times when they had to do monitoring and evaluation, they traveled to each country to carry out monitoring and evaluation. But now, they are now doing everything online. She said before it was unheard of, but they are now doing it online. Why? Because the situation forced them to. And sort of in Uganda and the rest of the world, we are being forced, should I say, to take note of this technology-rich environment. And this is what we want to look at. We want to understand it, this environment, and begin to identify those applications and tools that we can use to carry out effective teaching. We want to see how we can implement curriculum plans that apply technology. So we don't want that you as a teacher or myself as a teacher, as I'm beginning to plan for my teaching activities, technology should be part of it for myself as a teacher and for my students as well, that they are using these technologies. We want to be able to plan and design effective learning environments. So you as a teacher, you actually will be somebody who will plan and design. Usually we leave these things to ICT. Let ICT pick for us what to do. But you as a teacher, you should be the driving force behind technology. And let me explain that in detail, something that I observed specifically at Uganda Matters University. I was head ICT for 4 years until beginning of 2021, Uganda Matters. That is head ICT, the operation side, not just we have the teaching side, but those who actually set up ICT systems and manage them. So I think in the last 2 years, I think in 2018, we had agreed with our team that let us set up an e-learning platform, Moodle, which now we are all using. So we set it up and we said, okay, let us begin to get faculties to come on board to use. And we tried. I actually began by using it myself, and we tried to push lecturers and the lecturers, the academic side, to use it. And there was basically no uptake. There was zero uptake, let's put it that way. Then, just before COVID came in, actually, I think maybe a year before COVID came in 2019, a section of the academic staff joined a project. I think it was called TESIA, something to do with transformative education and something. Basically, the program was looking at rethinking the teaching and learning process, and specifically using technology. So this group of academic staff who are running this project, actually from this got motivated to start using technology. And when they got motivated, they began to see the technologies that were available, and they realized Moodle was available, and they began to use it. And this group of lecturers and academic staff are the ones who have driven the entire university to start using all these technologies. Now you can imagine ICT came up, we as ICT came up, we set up the system, we started using it ourselves, and we tried to push teachers and the lecturers, but they didn't take it up. The initiative had to come from them. So in other words, what I'm saying is the initiative has to come from you, the teacher. If you are in a school where you have an ICT department, don't imagine it's them who are going to push it. It has to be you. Why? Because you are the users. ICT doesn't teach for them. They are there to set up those systems, but you are the users. So you have to be the ones to drive the planning and design process for what should be used. After you've used them, you should be able to evaluate the technologies that you have selected. So we are also going to look at that. Then we also want to look at some of the social and ethical and legal human issues that we must think about as we are using these technologies. Any questions so far?
No, you are clear.
Okay. So let us try to understand why we are doing this course. Now in 2020, these authors, as I quote here, believed that that ICT will become an integrated education and it will become integrated with the education environment, with the teaching and learning environment. Now, right now, we can see that that has happened without necessarily anybody enforcing it. COVID simply enforced it, that we are now embracing technology. And I don't think we are going to roll back. As much as we're talking about going back to normal, I don't think we shall necessarily go back. If for certain sectors, we shall realize that this actually is the norm and it must be used. So why specifically use ICT? Even before COVID came in, one of the most important things we understand is in the education industry is that learning is a lifelong process. So if it is a lifelong process, we must prepare everyone, both the teachers and the students, to continue the learning process outside of the academic structure, outside of the classroom, outside of the schools, outside of the universities. They must be prepared to continue that learning process, either while they are working or while they are doing whatever it is, they must continue. And one of the ways to equip students to continue that learning process is to embrace modern technology, or ICT, for that matter, to embrace it. Why? Because most of the information now we are seeking for is online. You can't separate teaching from that. You can't separate teaching and learning from ICT. It's right now impossible. So we want to prepare our students and ourselves, for that matter, that we should fit in the current world, the world as it is, that it has become today. ICT essentially allows us to further ourselves, to further our opportunities. In the field of ICT itself, in the ICT industry, we see ICT as an enabler, something that adds value to whatever it is you're doing, whether you're learning, whether you're carrying out business processes, whatever it is, whether it's in the work environment, in a business environment, whether you're at school, ICT essentially provides a greater opportunity. So to prepare our students and ourselves for those opportunities that you will not find, that you may miss out on once you're disconnected from the online community, we need to prepare ourselves for that. So it is really vital, therefore, that you as teachers, you understand that this technology must be integrated in the school setting. It must be integrated. You may be there as a teacher, you may be there as somebody in administration, the head teacher, whatever it is. You need to understand that this must now be integrated. It must be part and parcel of any setting that we are part of. Any questions so far?
No questions, doctor.
Okay. So let us look at some basic concepts that we are going to encounter throughout the course, so that we understand them. Some you may already know, like education, but let's just look at them one by one. So let's start with what education is. Now, this is something that you must already have a really good idea about, but it is essentially it is a form of learning. It is a form of developing knowledge, skills, and habits for a group of people. And the objective of that is to pass them on to the next generation. So when we look at education itself, we're not necessarily looking at what we have in the formal setting, but even in the informal setting as well. So education, as we said, learning is a lifelong thing. We're not just looking at it at the physical classroom, what we have in the physical classroom, but what we have also outside the physical classroom. So this is what we're preparing for, per se. This is what education is and what we are preparing ourselves for. Both are for ourselves as professionals and also for our students. The second term is technology. So now when we think about it, when we think about technology, we automatically think of objects. For example, the computer that you may have in front of you, the smartphone that you may have in front of you, those things. But it isn't only just the objects, but it could also include skills that have been developed, created tools, yes, like we've said. Any of these things, this can be technology, but there must be the scientific method and material. It must be a combination of using a scientific method and the material. The objective of the technology is to solve a problem, to meet an objective or to solve a problem. So the technology may be a skill, but that skill must be there to solve a problem. The technology may be it may be a physical tool, but it must be there to solve a problem. Whatever it is, it's there to solve a problem. So even when you look at something as simple as herbal medication, that in itself is also a technology, because it is somebody's skill and knowledge that has been developed over time to solve a problem. So when you look at that little diagram there, we understand technology exists, that this technology must exist to solve a problem. Yeah. So that is one of the key things that we must understand. Now, technology itself has really has a great impact on humanity as a whole. Looking right back from the beginning of human life on Earth, technology has always existed. It has evolved over time. When you look at whatever it is, the Stone Age, the Ice Age, and the Industrial Revolution, and so on and so forth, you realize that we have always had technology with us. And this technology has grown together with our knowledge as human beings. This technology has grown. Right now, we have come to the information age. And this is where you now find things like information technology or ICT. Now, this is where education technology now comes in. Because of that information technology or ICT, we now have what we call education technology. So if we're again to look at the definitions of technology, it falls under all those things. So technology can be an object, it can be knowledge, it can be activities, a process, or a socio-technical system. So what exactly then is education technology? So when you apply any technology to the education process, it becomes education technology. So anything that involves education, for example, the pen is technology. When we move further to ICT, when you look at a computer can become education technology. If you're removing the computer and putting it, let's say, into a business setting, into a business, maybe you're putting it in e-commerce, trading and buying and selling of goods online, then it's also technology, but it becomes e-commerce technology. But in this particular case, when we're using it for the purposes of teaching and learning, it becomes education technology. So this education technology can be used, one, if we are producing education material. Take an example. I developed these lecture slides using this computer. So I use the computer itself has become education technology. PowerPoint as an application itself has become an education technology because I used it to develop materials. As we go along, I will also create videos, pre-recorded videos, and upload them. And I will use the tools that I have before me. All those tools become education technology. We can use it as a means of storage. So for example, me as a teacher, I will store my material on this computer. Imagine let's say at Uganda Matters University, your results are stored somewhere in soft copy. So that becomes education technology. Your details are stored on Moodle. All of that is now education technology being used. So then it can also be used as a medium for transmitting education material. Here we have a live example. We are using Zoom. Moodle itself is another platform. So that's another example. A medium of access of education resources. So the same thing. The teacher is transmitting something, the student is receiving. You, the student, can also pass something to me. WhatsApp, the WhatsApp platform is something we have already used in this particular context. And we shall use other tools. I'll introduce other tools to you as we get along. So you realize that so it can be used for different stages or for different actors within the education sector. We shall also hear terms like classroom technology. So when we have classroom technology, we first understand what the classroom is. We already know it as that physical space, either in a school, a college, or a university. That physical place where we actually teach, where we actually have our teaching and learning processes. If we were in the non-COVID, if we had this lecture, for example, in 2019, we would have met at Rubaga campus in a physical classroom where I would have delivered this content to you. So that would be the physical classroom. But however, there's also another classroom, the virtual classroom. Right now we're in a classroom. We are in a virtual classroom. So technology can transform us from a physical classroom into a virtual one like right now. So what then becomes a classroom technology? So anything that will enhance the process of transferring knowledge in the classroom. So for example, now I'm using a pointer. I'm using a pointer to highlight certain things when I want to say enhance the process of transferring. I'm using the Zoom recording tool to record our lecture and then pass the video on to you later on, so for you to go back and listen to it in case there was a point that you didn't understand. So that one is also helping us to enhance what we are learning. We now come to the focal point of our module, which is ICT. What makes it education technology? So we've heard of terms like ICT and IT, and sometimes they are used interchangeably. And you may ask yourself, why that differentiation? Is there an actual difference? Can we pinpoint it? Well, yes, and some cases no. But more specifically, when we talk about information technology, we are looking at any of those technologies that help us process information within an organization. What do we mean? We work with information, especially when we are teaching, because we are communicating something. As I speak now, I have information, and this information I wish to pass on to you. I may want to process this information. Yeah. For example, now as I'm teaching, I am processing as I highlight a particular point. That's part of the processing, the processing that we are referring to. So anything that I can use to help me process. Now that is IT. But before I communicate, normally, when we look at ICT, we are basically saying at IT, we're looking at any hardware, software, networks, the internet or humanware that can be used to support and process information. Yeah, anything that is that. Now, when we add that middle term communication, we then make it ICT. Before I began to develop this, it was just IT. But now that I'm communicating, when I introduce something like Zoom and the internet to communicate, then it becomes ICT. And now this is the term that most people refer to, because any information that we have, we don't just keep it to ourselves, but we communicate it to others. So that is a key point. Any questions so far?
So, Doctor.
Yes, please.
IT is all about the creating part.
Yes.
And then ICT, when communication is involved.
Exactly. When we're communicating anything, it's specifically in a digital format. As long as we are communicating it in a digital format. Okay. So after this, I just want us to have a brainstorming moment. What, if as a teacher, what student needs can you identify, and how can technology be used to support learning? Seeing here a question. Okay. In light of what we have discussed just now, and when you think about your experience with your students, what needs can students have? What needs can you identify, and how can technology be used to support learning for them?
May I speak?
Yes, please.
Yes. Especially when you are teaching about abstract ideas.
Yes.
Technology can come in to paint a clear picture for the kids, especially maybe when you're talking about things in outside countries, things that are not in their locality. Through technology, videos sometimes are created, and those abstract ideas may become clearer for them. Also,
yes, please go ahead.
Yes, so that is one way as meeting the learner's needs through technology.
Yes.
Learning. Then also through enabling them to have research, to make research on their own.
Yes, that independent learning. Basically,
Yes.
yes.
So instead of maybe, even if sometimes, as you've said, that we might have the tools, but we just blindly look at them for other things other than education or learning. For example, you could be teaching children whose parents have smartphones, and if at all they are to get those smartphones, they are to play games.
Yes.
But I believe they are guided that that those smartphones can be much more useful, more than just games. You can find that they can always read ahead or find out things, any questions that they might have to ask you, they can end up discovering answers for themselves.
Yes. Yes, that is very true. Yeah. That is very true. Julius, any ideas? Julius and Cindy?
Yes, please.
Yes, any ideas?
Yeah, one thing I have observed with today's generation is that they have a lot of interest in ICT.
Yes.
It is so hard for them to sit in class, but it is so automatic for them to sit on a computer and do something useful or not useful. So as teachers, if we engage and integrate ICT with learning, then those without interest will be captured in the class, and they'll use ICT for useful ends, like Josephine says, research, having cameras to take pictures during photographic interpretations, doing a lot of useful research with audios and videos. And that would also eliminate the problems of misusing ICT to do funny stuff that is not good, like pornography.
Yes, yes. Yeah, definitely you raise the issue of some ethical issues when technology is misused. It can be, yes, for example, pornography. It can also be used to like, for example, there's something like cyberbullying for young users. There are other things when people decide to harass, when they leak damaging information to the public, and so on and so forth. So those are things that we shall discuss when we're looking at the ethical, social, and legal issues that surround use of ICT. But definitely we can all identify areas where students can be supported by ICT to teach in the learning process. Now, but what about the teachers? What can you say about the teachers? Maybe Julius, we can hear from Julius this time. What needs can you identify for teachers, and how can technology be used to support that?
Maybe to help a little bit before Julius gets ready. Hello?
Okay. Yes, please.
Yes, teachers also need to be helped to train on how to use ICT and those other gadgets like e-boards and those many things that I don't know. We know teachers as teachers, we have technophobia.
Yes.
So we need to be trained and we get used to things like using e-boards, projectors. It makes
Yes.
the teaching real.
Yes.
It makes the lessons real. When I have to teach about an ear, instead of drawing a sketchy diagram of an ear, the children, the learners will be able to see what an ear looks like and all the parts and everything that is related to what I'm teaching. It makes learning real and
Yes.
to real life instead of thinking and imagining what the teacher is talking about.
Yeah. Most definitely, what one of the needs you've identified, I think, which is key, is that phobia teachers have towards technology. And the idea most people have that technology either belongs to ICT professionals and the young people, but if you're in another profession, you really can't use ICT, and which is really not true. Imagine if someone says the car should only be left to rally drivers. Well, that means no one would drive a car, essentially, which doesn't make sense. All of us need it. It's a tool that everyone needs, and everyone must use it. So it is something that must come out, and yes, there's definitely training. There's that need to train teachers, but also to take that fear away. Why? When we started the discussion about, especially on the slide when we looked at the objectives of this course, is to understand that this is a rich environment. Yeah, the environment of education technology is extremely rich, meaning that there are so many technologies that are out there that we don't know, but we can use. We can use, and we can use them free of charge. I'll give you the example, something that I will show you. I will make a video and upload it for you before the next lecture. We shall have a discussion on it. Actually, I won't teach you the next topic on technology selection. I'll just do a pre-recorded video and upload it, and then we shall have a discussion. And then afterwards, I'll show you how I did it. Yeah, how you use technologies that are currently just with you, and you make something like that and share it with your students. So technologies that you have, technologies that are at our fingertips, but they are constantly evolved, they are constantly coming up. These technologies are constantly coming up. So rather than a teacher waiting to be told how to do it, teach yourself, go and look for these technologies. Teach yourself, go and Google and just find out what free technologies are available to support my teaching and learning. And you'll find blogs, find these. You can go to YouTube and say, how can I use this? And you find somebody has put up a video to demonstrate how to use a particular technology. So even also teaching yourself, just taking the initiative and saying, let me teach myself. I just gave you the example of the lecturers, a group of lecturers who went for that program. And these people went and taught themselves most of these technologies that were originally ICT was saying, let's teach you. And they didn't want to hear about it. They didn't want to know about it. They kept saying no. They were not interested. And most people were saying, maybe, you know. But once fellow lecturers picked it up, then lecturers realized that, hey, it's possible. This is something that is possible. So we can think of a vast number of things. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying something, Josephine?
Yeah, like you were saying what, like the mindset.
Yes.
Because like Cindy was saying that teachers need to be helped.
Yes.
But teachers themselves, once something comes from you, then it can easily happen.
Yes.
Other than, because they, in most cases, teachers went in like as if it is a problem.
Yes.
But once someone, because even like you've given examples, you can find that someone has a smartphone which has Google, and maybe they are struggling with a spelling or they have forgotten a certain fact. And they may refer to ask someone else instead of in just taking a minute to consult the phone, use the phone. Yes, so the mindset is, I believe, as far as technology and integrating it in teaching is concerned, it goes back to the mindset of teachers.
Okay.
And their attitude and their interest.
Yes, I think that's an extremely important point.
Yeah.
The attitude and interest. That is one of the things actually which when us in ICT we look at when we're looking at technology adoption. Will people adopt a technology or will they not take it on? What is your attitude towards it? I'll give you an example. My late father passed on in 2016. He was 70, I keep forgetting, but he was 72 years old. My late father was on WhatsApp before me. He got onto WhatsApp before me. And primarily because I had a very bad attitude towards WhatsApp. Now you can imagine I'm a person who's an ICT profession. This man was a farmer, a businessman, and at his age, he had taken up WhatsApp, but I had not, because I had a very negative and poor attitude towards WhatsApp. But when he died and I had to start communicating with people and and now WhatsApp came in line, my siblings said, no, Sheba, you really have to get on WhatsApp. This doesn't make sense. It was a simple thing of attitude. It wasn't even, it didn't mean, so you can just imagine what attitude and perception can do to people just saying, let me open myself up to this technology. So now I was thinking we start with, hello, sorry. Okay, so I was thinking we look at technology, teaching models and technology selection, but I'm thinking, no, let me just create something for you and upload it so that in our next lecture, we go ahead and we actually begin to see some of the technologies that we have available to us. What I can leave you with is please look at teaching modes. Yeah, what are the teaching modes that are available, and what are some things that can help us to design our classroom technologies? What can help us to come up with some good designs or to some good selection that I make a good selection? What tools we have available in terms of models that can help us appropriately select technology to use within our classroom? Is that understood? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, did you hear what I was saying?
No.
No. Oh, maybe network. So sorry, I was saying that I'd wanted our next topic to look at teaching modes and technology selection. In other words, as teachers, when we are going to teach, there's a mode that the method we want to use, and we must then select an appropriate technology. So I was thinking, rather than me diving into it, let me just ask you, can you go and do research on that topic, on the different methods of teaching, and what tools can we use, what models can we use to help us select an appropriate technology to suit our teaching method?
Can we clarify the assignment, please?
Just go and look at the different modes of teaching, or should I say the way you may want to deliver something in a classroom, the method you may want to use. Now, in light of the discussion we've just had, where we were talking about integrating technology in our teaching and learning, how can we select appropriate technology to suit a method? What tools are available to help us select the appropriate method, to select the appropriate technology to suit our method? Just can do it. A rough, it's not an assignment to be marked. It's an assignment to help us with our discussions. Yeah.
How to select the appropriate technology to
the
suit.
appropriate technology to suit the method, the teaching method. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is asking for what you consider.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is not an assignment for marking. I'm not going to grade, but it is to help us with our discussions.
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. So again, apologies that I haven't yet prepared the module on Moodle, but between tomorrow and Thursday, I will have done that and I'll send you a message.
Okay, please.
Okay. So do we have any question before we break off? Sorry. Do we have any questions?
I don't have.
Okay. Okay, so then I will meet you on WhatsApp, I guess, and Moodle.
Okay, Doctor.
Okay.